Today, John, we're going to be talking about what I'm interested in and hope to be able to do quite a bit of in my retirement years, and that's travel. We want to help people travel well and know what to expect in today's environment when it comes to traveling, whether that's local down to the Duck River or over to maybe DC or to California or all the way international. So it's been stated that 65% of retirees cite travel as their number one top retirement dream.
65%. And according to Value Penguin, vacations cost 2% of household budgets each year. And I would say that's pretty typical. When we sit down with retirees and we talk about a travel budget, which we think is important if that's one of your goals, it's probably about 2% of your annual budget. And the average cost, now there's a lot of things that go into this. First time I read this statistic, I was kind of a little bit shocked by this. The average cost of a trip within the United States is about $581. So you would probably, all kidding aside, put camping into that, and then some things are $580 a night, right? Some really nice hotels. And then outside of the country, the average trip for international, which again is going to vary, is about $3,251 internationally. So just depending on where you want to go, what you want to do. Some trips can be very cost effective. Some are going to cost you probably your entire budget if it's an international trip that you've always been dreaming of. So having a budget, though, is important.
Well, and for most too, the most travel you're going to do is probably in the first 5 to 10 years, where that travel budget may be a little bit more, and then in the latter 5 or 10 years it goes down. We're looking at averages here. $581 seems like it'd be hard to take a trip on that, but when you factor in travel, camping, things like that, these aren't all extravagant trips. That's the average. But a lot of folks, when they're working, the one thing that they don't do well, and I think this is important, if you want to travel in retirement, or you have any hobby, right? This could be anything, but specifically travel, what we're talking about today, as you get closer to retirement, you want to make sure that you've carved out a portion of your investments that's going to be there to support any monthly income need that you're going to want and need, and your travel budget and expenses, and not have that money invested in things that are susceptible to the ups and downs of the market. And for most clients, we recommend at least 5 to 10 years of expenses to be set aside in things that are conservative, that aren't going to go up and down. The most important thing with that money is that you never lose a penny of it. If you know you're going to need it to spend, we want that money earning. Thankfully, in today's market, you can actually get pretty reasonable returns on money that isn't tied to market risk. Have the money earning some good interest for you, but also making sure that a market correction like we've seen many years happen doesn't have an impact. I would say the worst thing that can happen, John, is if you're getting ready to plan a trip next year and all of a sudden the market goes down, and now you're having to tell your spouse, or you guys are having conversations about, we're not going to get to take that trip this year because the market's down. I guess we need to wait, how long, 2, 3, 4 years for the market to recover. I don't work 30 to 40 years of my life to let that happen.
Right. And then the other real risk that you take with that, if you don't allocate a budget where that is kind of set aside in advance, is, let's say it's all in the market's taking a hit, you don't want to be a forced seller in a down market. And if you're forced to wait, in the example you're using, what if you have a health issue in between that time and the time the market recovers, and then you're never able to take that trip, or certainly not the way you would have expected it. Another thing I think is really important when you set aside this money is that it gives you an opportunity to account for inflation. And so each time you take a trip, it's probably going to cost you a little bit more, even if we're not dealing with inflation that we're dealing with right now.
Well, what we're seeing, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which I think is a credible resource, is saying that prices are 1.72 times more than the average in the year 2000. They've gone up a lot. So a trip overseas that might have cost you $5,000 20 years ago now is costing $8,600. So we have to factor in inflation. And the key to all of this is plan ahead. Make sure that you've planned ahead to cover those trips. We've got clients that retired, sold their house, built barn-dominiums, and didn't know what a barn-dominium was till about 3 to 5 years ago. But, you know, people's dreams and aspirations of travel, whether that's local domestic, getting an RV, traveling by plane, by car. The key is some of the numbers that we've talked about. When you're retired, it may be more, right? These are averages for newlyweds all the way up to young families, not just specifically retirees. So when you're retired, it's likely that you'll go longer, stay more nights, stay at nicer places. And so make sure that you've accounted for some of those increased costs now that you've got freedoms, time, and you've worked hard. So you want to make sure that you enjoy the trips to their fullest.
Yeah, all that delayed gratification. You want to take advantage of that. Well, hey, thanks for watching our show. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel to get all of our latest episodes. You can also go to retirementtalk.com for a lot of helpful resources. Thanks for watching.